I'm Fletcher Rhoden. Today's pet peeve is getting like words wrong. Mistaking one word for another. So, Pet Peeves is brought to you by my website, FletcherRhoden.com. That's where you can find links, such as the one to my Amazon.com author page. That's where you can buy my books in paperback, or for Kindle, or in audiobook format. You can also find a link to my Spotify artists page. That's where you can download my albums. Last year, 2024, I had a 4-album series called Quadrilogy. This year, 2025, I have a brand new album called I'm Possible. So you can download these from Spotify or from anywhere on the internet that you'd like to download your favorite music. But at my website, there's free music that you can only get there, so check it out. All right. People get words wrong. You know, pet peeves. We all have pet peeves, things that just get under our skin. And maybe it's cathartic to hear somebody mention theirs. Maybe it'll make you realize how silly your own pet peeves sound and feel and are. And maybe it'll give you the strength of character to abandon them and live a life free of pet peeves. Not me, but maybe you. In the meantime, let's share a little miserable company, shall we? Okay, people who get words wrong. Now, it's not the people, again, it's the words, it's the getting of the words wrong. I often say, and I don't mean to say this, my pet peeve is the person who does this, but it's not the person. It's the behavior that bothers me. It's hard to separate a person from the behavior, because without the person, there's no behavior. And without the behavior, there's no YouTube show. So, but all the same, this particular behavior is a pet peeve of mine. There are words that are often misused as being synonymous when they're not. Like eminent and imminent. Imminent means it's going to happen soon. Eminent means greatness or grandeur, grandiosity. So an event may be imminent, IMM. But a person may be called your eminence, EMI. Okay? So when a person says, it's going to happen, it's imminent. Or, here comes the king. Hello, your eminence. It's wrong. Okay? Now, it's not as wrong as many other things. It's not as wrong as human trafficking. It's not as wrong as incest. It's not as wrong as most pop music that they make these days. But it's still wrong. And, people use this language. It's their language. Now, I'm not talking about malapropisms. Malapropisms. The word comes, it's not called a malaprop. It's the idea of using a word incorrectly, and it comes from a character whose name was Mrs. Malaprop. And so when Archie Bunker used to say, for example, it's the survival of the fattest, meathead, that was a malapropism, which later came to be called a bunkerism at the time, because it was such a staple of Archie Bunker's character is he would misuse turns of phrase, but it's called a malapropism, just so you know. But I'm not talking about that. A malapropism, for example, on Trailer Park Boys, Ricky does a lot of malapropisms, which are now, they call them Rickyisms, but it doesn't take rocket appliances. Or, good things come to those at the gate. Or we're going to have to put 2 turnips in heat. What? We're going to have to put 2 turnips in heat. You know what they say? You got to put 2 turnips in heat. No. It's turn up the heat. I know. You put the 2 turnips in water and then you turn up the heat. That's how you get the turnips hot. But of course the expression has nothing to do with turnips, and I'm not talking about malapropisms or Rickyisms or bunkerisms. I'm talking about things that are commonly said by intelligent people, not comedic characters on situation comedy shows. Right? So when I'm watching Ben Mysalis on the Midas Touch, who is a lawyer, he's a man for whom communication is the key to his success and the key to the liberty of his clients or to the financial longevity of his clients. And when I hear him constantly reporting things thusly, and she goes, Your Honor, I'm not going to do things that way. And the judge goes, Miss Haba, you'd better... Okay, goes is not synonymous with says, any more than imminent and eminent are synonymous, okay? Don't do that. If you're a pundit on YouTube and you do this, what I'm doing, for fun, and if you do it for a living, and your job is to speak, and you're a lawyer, and you have people's liberty and their finances in the palm of your hands, by all means do know the difference between the verb to go and the verb to say. Okay? To put it bluntly, stop going that. And are you going to go on vacation, Ben? Well, where are you going to say? Oh, you're saying to Jamaica, how nice. And then where else will you say? Oh, you're going to fly to the Bahamas and say there. Go and say are not synonymous. People don't go words. Stop saying that. Stop going that. Okay? Obliterate or decimate. All right? People say decimated all the time. Oh, they were decimated, wiped out entirely. Well, guess what? That's not what decimated means. Decky, that's 10. That means 10. Okay? Decimation was a methodology of punishment in Rome, ancient Rome. And what they would do is, there was I believe it was a cadre of men, was 10 men. And if one man in that 10 committed a crime, it was not he who was punished, but a random member of the 10. And that kept all the men looking out for each other to make sure none of them screwed up, because they could be punished for the other guy's mess up. So it was a way to sort of create a self-governance among the men. And it was 1 man out of 10. Decimation. Removing 1 man from a cadre of 10. Not necessarily the guilty man. Basically, they were chosen at random. That's what made it so terrifying. That's what kept these guys in line. Because the other guys would not let them screw up and cause their own decimation. Decimation, 1 out of 10. Okay? Obliteration. To obliterate is to knock out virtually in its entirety. If you're obliterating a thing or a creature or a place or a people, then you are wiping them out virtually to the man. In fact, technically, obliteration means total destruction. Not a single man left, not a single living tissue, not a single brick, as they say in the Bible, not one stone left resting upon another. Obliteration means total destruction. Decimation means 1 out of 10, 1/10 destruction. So 1/10 destruction versus 100% destruction is pretty different. The difference there is 90%. So people who use the word decimation casually are 90% wrong. 90% wrong. But at least that puts them above the people who say, and then he goes, Your Honor, I want a mistrial. And the judge says, and the judge goes, Alina Haba, you can't have one. They're 100% wrong. They're even 200% wrong because of who they are while they're doing it. I mean, let's face it. Ricky of the Trailer Park Boys is meant to be an uneducated hoodlum living in Nova Scotia who could reasonably not get things right. But come on, if you're a lawyer and a professional webcaster, right? Get the words right, please, folks. It's not just Ben. I don't mean to pick on Ben Mycelis of the Midas Touch, because I like that show. I do take umbrage with a few of the things, but very rarely are those things of an essential nature. They're more superficial. Like the way the guy keeps saying he goes instead of he says. You're a lawyer. Come on, don't do that. But I do like the show, and I do want them to keep doing what they're doing. It's just, man, that's a pet peeve of mine, to hear words so used so wrong all the time. Now, what about you? Do you have any, is this one of your pet peeves? Or do you have words that when you hear them, one mistaken for the other, it just makes you nuts? You know? Well, if so, let me know in the comments section. I'd like to read about it, and I'll respond to it in kind. So, and if you'd like to learn more about what my pet peeves are, and maybe what your pet peeves are too, because let's face it, this might not ever have bothered you until just now. In fact, you might have been saying eminent for imminent, or decimation for obliteration. You might not have known. I hope that you learned something. If not, did that ever bother you? Does it bother you now? Does it bother you less? Let me know. And tune in 2 weeks, Monday at noon, right at this YouTube channel, for another episode of Pet Peeves. It alternates on Mondays at noon at this YouTube channel with my other show, Quotes and Quips. And you can see 2024's run of Quotes and Quips still posted on this YouTube channel. There's also a show from 2023 called Tracking the Lone Wolf. That's on its own YouTube channel called Tracking the Lone Wolf. I bet you'll like that. Subscribe to it. Read the book it's based on, Track the Lone Wolf, The Sigma at Work, at Home, and at Play. You can get that in all 3 formats, and most of my other books too. Also, don't forget my new pop album for this year, I'm Possible. Check it out. Enjoy the programming. Tune in again. And until then, bye, Mary.